Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to episode 27 of the Sneider Cut. I am your handsome host, Jeff Sneider. With us, as always, is the Invisible Man. Invisible Man, how are you today? Anyways, guys, what a week. It was a short week, a holiday weekend. What is there to discuss? What do you think? I planned for this show? Yeah, there was a lot that happened, but nothing too major. You know what? I'm gonna bust out the Collider newsletter. What? That's right. I gave it away, guys. I've been working on a Collider newsletter, and it's going to have a personalized voice. It's gonna sort of sound like me. It's gonna involve my interests and what I enjoyed on the site. And I think it's, high time that we did something like this. Eventually we'll add breaking news alerts. So yeah, I did a little test run this week. So let me just bust that out and we'll take it kind of from the top from there. I felt like the top story this week, okay? It wasn't HBO or HBO Max. It wasn't Apple TV Plus or Disney Plus. It wasn't Amazon or Quibi. It was Showtime. Showtime it won the week for sure. So last week I had teased, because I think I taped it Friday morning, and on Friday afternoon we went with the story about Taika Waititi and Jude Law teaming up on the Auteur. I didn't have a ton of details at the time, I wasn't sure who was writing it or if it was based on anything. I had Googled the Auteur and found out that there was a graphic novel, and it sounded like it was similar, but I couldn't tell for sure whether it was based on that or not. And it was just a wild day Friday because it's understandably, Showtime doesn't want us to go with that story on a Friday late afternoon on Valentine's Day before a holiday weekend. And the truth is, it's not ideal for us either. That's why I think you kind of have to respect it, as just an act of journalism. I've got this from multiple sources. I know it's true. If it's true and it's newsworthy, it's publishable. So, it wasn't great for our traffic either. We probably would have done better with that story had we waited until Tuesday morning. But, I got to post when I got to post. News stops for nobody. And so we did the Taika Jude Law story, and it's that's big news, especially to Collider's audience. Taika Waititi just won an Oscar for Jojo Rabbit. People want, he's directing Thor. He may direct a Star Wars movie. People want to know what he's working on. So if we've got something before anybody else, of course I want to put it out there. So yeah, we went at the same time as Variety, and it sounds crazy because a few days later on Tuesday, Showtime confirmed, and it's man, did those deals close over the holiday weekend? Probably not. So they described it as a gonzo horror comedy with a twisted romance at its center, wrapped in, biting satire. And basically, Jude Law is going to play a film producer who accidentally traps the cast and crew of his latest production, a horror movie, of course, on the backlot with a serial killer who's on the loose. I think Taika's going to write it with Peter Warren. He's going to direct at least one episode, probably, a few. And it sounds like a great limited series for Showtime. Then on Wednesday, I want to say, the day after Showtime officially confirmed this, Deadline gets its own exclusive. I wonder if Deadline was on the Auteur and they were like, you know what, just let him have it. Give me something else. Or I want to go with this exclusively. So Deadline reports that the Safdie brothers are teaming with Nathan For You star Nathan Fielder on a pilot called The Curse, which, the premise wasn't the most original thing, but the Safdies obviously are almost as hot as Taika Waititi. So for Showtime to go out and get into business with Taika Waititi and the Safdie brothers, it's where was it's either that everybody else was sleeping and Showtime genuinely beat everybody out for these shows, or these shows were shopped everywhere else and they passed, and Showtime was like, no, we'll take them. So The Curse is about a married couple whose marriage is put to the test when they become cursed by a house featured on their HGTV style reality show. So it's, about this couple who flip houses, and, one of the houses that they flip puts some kind of curse on them, and they suffer the consequences. Nathan Fielder's going to play the husband. They haven't cast the wife, and Benny Safdie's going to play the producer of the show within the show. Twitter went nuts for this story, and so it's like, that's all you can really do. Is like, you almost can't even control how the show turns out, but you can control, what's going to excite people. So when you say Taika Waititi's doing a horror comedy, or the Safdies are making a show with Nathan Fielder, the press writes itself. It was a great job by Showtime this week, and they definitely deserve credit no matter how it ended up happening, no matter how these shows turn out. These are big gets, for sure. Jennifer Lawrence signing on to work with Adam McKay in the Netflix sci-fi movie Don't Look Up. I'm not sure what the tone of this is, because it sounds like a comedy, although it could just as easily be played as a drama. I don't know if Netflix sees it as an awards contender. I think they just announced that George Clooney's next movie is now called The Midnight Sky, and that's also going to come out before the end of the year. So this Adam McKay thing is also intended before the end of the year. It's about two mid-level astronomers who discover a meteorite will destroy Earth in 6 months, and they head out on a media tour to warn mankind. I assume Jennifer Lawrence is playing one of those two astronomers. I bet Adam McKay can have a lot of fun with this. I just don't know if this is going to ultimately be like a minor movie in his oeuvre. They are supposed to work together on the Elizabeth Holmes Theranos movie Bad Blood, and they've just been taking their time getting that script right. I don't really have any issue with how long, they've been developing that or anything, but clearly they couldn't wait to work together, and, even, I don't know, somehow a hole opened up in their schedules. I mean, as I said, Jennifer Lawrence is not doing the David O. Russell movie. That ended up going to Margot Robbie. And Adam McKay, God, this guy is just working nonstop. But as I said in the Mark Ruffalo Parasite story, Parasite is like a ways off. That's not. I don't think that's going to happen. Nothing like that. Nothing is happening with that probably for a while. That won't start shooting till 2021. So Adam McKay probably had like a summer fall slot open. Actually, I think that they said production starting in April. I want to say. Interesting. Let's see. Baby Yoda merchandise is going on sale. Disney and Lucasfilm went to Good Morning America, their sister network, to show a bunch of official merchandise. So you better get that while you can, because your kids will hate you. If you have kids, they will hate you if you don't get them this Baby Yoda stuff. I love how they call him the child too. We don't know that he's actually Yoda. Well, what is the species? What is the Yoda species? The Godai? Ben Affleck got real about his Batman exit. And this is an interesting one. Like, obviously we know Ben Affleck has had his addiction struggles with alcohol. He's been very candid about it, very candid about his stints in rehab. And he basically said, like, he showed the Batman script that he wrote to a friend. The friend was like, this is really good, but, you're going to put yourself through hell doing this, to yourself again. And I guess Ben was smart enough to realize that, and so he wanted to step away. The way back I think looks really good. I'm a big fan of Gavin O'Connor. I like Brad Inglesby. He's a really good writer, and I'm looking forward to this. I can't wait to see it. And I think it's one thing for Ben to sort of use his own experience to inform his performance. I think that could make it a potentially special performance. Again, this is the director of Warrior, which is one of the greatest sports movies ever made. But using it in the marketing is a little weird. And David Poland sort of said something like that on Twitter as well. Like, that could backfire on you. I just don't know. It's obviously like a weird coincidence, him getting into the alcoholism stuff in Batman 2 weeks before you have a Warner Brothers movie to open. It reeks of sort of opportunism. At the same time, I appreciate his honesty, but I think that it's definitely opening like a dangerous can of worms using your own sort of like I don't know if it's healthy for an addict to then be talking about it every day on a press tour, with people who maybe don't really understand what that is. So, I think it's ultimately for the best that Ben Affleck is no longer playing Batman. I've always preferred Ben Affleck outside of the cape and cowl. It's not to say I thought he was a bad Batman, because I thought he was pretty good, but at the same time, like I like him as an actor, and I want him making more original movies like The Way Back, like The Accountant, which is also a Gavin O'Connor movie. So, yeah, and that's interesting too, and that Ben sort of already knew the director and had some trust with him if he was going to go to these super dark places, which apparently he does. Moving on. Speaking of going to dark places, Eli Roth is heading to Pandora, but not that Pandora, not the Avatar Pandora. James Cameron would never let anyone else take the reins of his baby. No, he's going to the Pandora from Borderlands, the Lionsgate. They've been developing this, or I guess the Arads have been developing this for a while with Eric Feig, and Lionsgate just picked it up. And yeah, it's based on the hit video game. I never played Borderlands. It sounds like kind of crazy, and I feel like, judging from the reaction, people were kind of excited about Eli Roth taking the reins of this. He obviously has a very sort of dark and demented sensibility. It sounds like the game will allow him to indulge that a little bit. Not that it's a horror game necessarily, but maybe there's some horror elements. So yeah, it sounded like this guy's a good match for that on paper. Coincidentally, I just rewatched The Green Inferno this week with Stephanie. She just wanted to watch like a gross horror movie, so we put that on, and I think she liked it. I thought it held up. Like I like Eli Roth. The family film he just did was good. Maybe it wasn't great, but it was something different from Eli, and it showed that he can handle, maybe a bigger studio movie like this. So I think it was smart that he went and did that and showed that he wasn't just like the guy making $5 million horror movies. So much more in the news. God, what else was there? Oh, I know. 1 second. Shantaram. Wanted to talk about that. Like that's another example of like Apple just sort of diving in before they're ready. Like they're like learning to swim on the go, that kind of thing. So I think it was Eric Warren Singer. He didn't have the scripts ready. Like, this guy comes from the feature world. He's allowed to take a little bit more time. And so the show's in production and it's shooting, and they're like, where's the next episode? Like, we're ready. And he's like, I don't have it. So they had to shut down production for a while, give him a few months to catch up on the scripts. That is a costly interruption, I'm sure. I'm sure Charlie Hunnam is like, what the fuck is going on? Having worked on plenty of other TV shows that ran smoothly, for the most part anyways. But yeah, Shantaram is something that, God, they've been trying to get this right for ages. I think Johnny Depp developed it forever. There was a month-long bidding war, apparently, for this property, which strikes me as odd. I mean, again, it could be really good, but I don't know if this is like the kind of thing I could get like my dad to watch. And there's just so much stuff out there now. It's like you really... It's not that it's a narrow target to hit, because the target, I think, is bigger than ever, but I don't know if this is bad money that Apple is sort of wasting here. Mulan getting a PG-13. I think it's the first Disney live-action adaptation, or maybe the first one in just like a few years to get a PG-13. This seems like a war movie, so I'm not necessarily surprised. I'm looking forward to Mulan. I've heard mostly good things. It's going to really hurt, though, if that doesn't get, the China release because of the coronavirus, because the theaters are all, like, shut down. They could always release it a year from now in China, but, piracy is obviously going to be an issue, as it always is in that market. Onward, there were Onward screened. The reactions were through the roof. And again, I don't consider Pixar to be like Marvel or DC, where you can't necessarily trust the reactions. I think people are, typically pretty honest with regards to their animated movies. Like, there are no animated movies I go to see that everyone would flip for, where I'm like, oh, what the hell is this? Like something like Birds of Prey, where I'm like, what? Someone thought this was amazing? So I may have to give Onward a shot, because it definitely was not a movie that I was like hyped to see. It just didn't have that high concept that I think most Pixar movies do. It seemed like a little bit more of a traditional animated story for children. But yeah, judging by the reaction, I'm going to have to check that out. Really enjoyed Variety's piece written by Sharon Choi, the interpreter for Bong Joon-ho this season, on the Parasite Awards campaign. She is obviously planning her own project about her experience, but she wrote like an incredible sort of just recap of her journey with this team as someone who just like one day gets a interpreter gig, and you don't know how long it's going to last, and it takes you all the way to the main stage at the Oscars. Like that is that is pretty incredible. Like, that's an amazing Cinderella story. What else? Dexter Fletcher. Right, he signed on to do The Saint. So it's like, if he's doing The Saint, what is going on with Sherlock Holmes 3? Maybe nothing. It doesn't sound like it's... I just don't know how active it is, particularly with Jude Law signing on to do the Auteur. Like, are we going to get this anytime soon? Is Robert Downey Jr., after Doolittle, is he soured on doing another 4-quadrant studio blockbuster? Like, does he want to get back to being Robert Downey Jr.? Because God, I hope so. Dexter Fletcher and The Saint, kind of a weak IP. I never. It's like The Shadow for me, except without the cool like tagline about who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men. Like, what is The Saint? It sounded like a bad spy movie, like a JV version of Mission Impossible or something. And I can't blame Paramount for wanting to exploit the IP, because, like, look what they did with Mission Impossible. This was based on some 60s TV show, and for 25 years it's been the best live action franchise running in Hollywood. So maybe they, and Dexter Fletcher just made Rocket Man for them, which was probably their best regarded movie of last year, even though I preferred Crawl. It makes sense that Paramount went back to Dexter Fletcher. Maybe they heard something wasn't going well with Sherlock 3. And again, I don't know that there is something wrong with Sherlock 3. It's not like he's no longer attached to do it. It's just this is kind of similar, sort of, in a way, for Dexter Fletcher. So maybe he'll just develop them both and see which one gets a green light first. But the Chris Pratt stuff, he was rumored to be in talks for The Saint. That never made sense for me. And so he wasn't in the Variety story. When I posed a question on Twitter, Justin Kroll, our pal here at the show, replied, oh, he passed like 6 months ago. So obviously those talks, even though they were reported, didn't work out. People love reporting early stuff about Chris Pratt. Remember when he was going to be in Indiana Jones? I don't think that's happening anymore. By the way, props to Harrison Ford, who in an interview got asked about Force Ghosts and was like, I don't know what they are and I don't care. Amen. You took the words right out of my mouth, Harrison Ford. This shit is so silly. What else? Oh, you know what? I didn't have time to check it out this week, but Collider had an article about the original pilot for Happy-ish, the Showtime series starring Philip Seymour Hoffman, leaked online. So I don't know if it's been pulled yet, but if you haven't seen that, you should check that out. I remember watching, maybe it was the first couple episodes of Happy-ish with Steve Coogan. It wasn't really my bag, but Philip Seymour Hoffman and Steve Coogan are very, very different, I think. So I'm definitely going to try to check that out this weekend, and I recommend that you guys do the same. We got a first trailer for Amazing Stories, the Amazon series from Steven Spielberg. Sorry, it's not Amazon, it's Apple, right? Apple is doing Amazing Stories. I was thinking Amazon Amazing. No. Apple's got it. The theme song kind of gave me chills. I remember this show very vaguely as a child, but something about that theme song, I don't know, always stuck with me. Definitely planning to check that out on Apple. And it'll only be like the third series that I've done. Again, I loved Little America. Thought that was terrific. The one that I finished this week, which I don't think I've even tweeted about it, was Mythic Quest, Raven's Banquet. It's like a, maybe an above average sitcom. Nothing about it is like must see or knee slappingly funny. It's just a good collection of actors, whether it's Rob McElhenney, who plays Mac on It's Always Sunny, to Cricket, David Hornsby, to F. Murray Abraham, Danny Pudi. It's like a fun cast. So yeah, but like it's like, is that show worth 4.5 hours of my year? And I would have to say so, because I burned through it. One of the advantages of having access to the Apple Press site. I still am not getting the sense that a lot of people have subscribed to Apple. It seems like it's like a film and TV Twitter sort of thing. So we'll see if all these things can exist. Like, why is Apple why have they not just bought Netflix at this point? Is Netflix, I wonder if they're even like telling people they're for sale, or like, how is Netflix playing it when they're, drowning in debt? God, what else? First images from this Chris Hemsworth movie, blah, 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 blah. Nice piece on Collider from Adam Chitwood on 13 movies that could be in next year's Oscars race. I definitely agree. Even though I missed it at Sundance, I've heard great things about Minari. Some of these other movies no one's going to see for a long time. No one's seen The French Dispatch yet. But Minari went over like gangbusters at Sundance. What else? God, I like the Big Time Adolescence trailer. You guys should check out the Red Band. That's the new Pete Davidson movie with Griffin Gluck. It's going to be on Hulu. This was at Sundance last year, and I think that they just kind of wanted to wait for Pete Davidson to sort of blow up a little bit. He obviously is the star of Judd Apatow's next movie, which is going to be premiering at South by Southwest, The King of Staten Island. So this is going to be arriving sort of right around that time. And it's definitely going to be a big month for Pete Davidson. I also dug the trailer for Run, the Lionsgate thriller starring Sarah Paulson. And it sounds like a Munchausen by proxy kind of thing, where mom's keeping her daughter sick or telling her that she has this disability or whatever it is, this illness, and maybe she really doesn't. Really liked how it looked visually. This is from the team that did Searching. And Sarah Paulson's a terrific actress, so sign me up for Run. Got to pass on Westworld Season 3. I mean, what they're adding Marshawn Lynch in a significant role, and Aaron Paul, who I love, but I gave that the first season of that show like a shot. I think I watched half of it. It's not for me, guys. Westworld, got to pass. God, I feel like there was more. I definitely wanted to talk about the Bong Joon-ho list that I posted yesterday. Like, what is wrong with people? Well, like, this was a very fun assignment. They asked me to, come up with some projects in development that, might be a fit for Bong Joon-ho. But it's also Collider. Like, no one wants to read about, what Bong Joon-ho's version of To the White Sea would be. So you got to have some fun with it. And if you put a Marvel movie on, you got to put a DC movie on, because you'll never hear the end of it. So it's like, to me, what Marvel or DC movie is Bong Joon-ho most likely to direct in a fantasy universe where he starts directing comic book movies? Something weird, something dark, something like Justice League Dark, which I know nothing about besides John Constantine as a character in it. That's really all I know. I don't give a fuck who directs Justice League Dark, because I don't even know if I'm going to see that movie. I mean, I probably will because it's DC, but I have no emotional investment in Justice League Dark. I put it on the list because it's fun for people to think about what Bong Joon-ho's version of that movie might be. Blade, same deal. Like, there already was a Blade trilogy, and the first one was really good. I'm excited to see Mahershala Ali play the character, and I am excited to see who they get to direct. It probably won't be Bong Joon-ho, but, like, that's fun to think about. And those are really, like, those two in the Hunger Games prequel were the only, like, massive sort of things on there. And the Hunger Games prequel, like, you know what? I think Bong Joon-ho could actually do a really good job with that. The way that explores class and whatnot, or at least the original franchise did. And I know, like, not every Bong Joon-ho movie needs to explore class or capitalism or whatever, but clearly these are, like, themes within his work. As for, like, serial killer stuff, Fincher stuff, like, I was just listening to a podcast, the Big Picture, Sean Fennessy's podcast with Amanda Dobbins. They had Sam Esmail on, and they were talking about how, Fincher was like the modern day Hitchcock. And to me, there's Hitchcock in in Bong Joon-ho's stuff. I was thinking about Wong Kar-wai because the show was canceled too. I'm looking at the notes. So to me, it's almost like natural that Bong Joon-ho would sort of be a fit for some of the development projects that David Fincher has left behind. And frankly, I had to narrow it down. Like, I think Bong Joon-ho's Black Hole or Rendezvous with Rama would be really interesting. But I went with Strangers on a Train, which wasn't even, one of my suggestions. It was a great call by my editor, Adam Chetwood. I think I had To Catch a Thief on there instead. But Strangers on a Train would be terrific. Like him directing Ben Affleck. Even World War Z 2, the sequel with Brad Pitt, which, I heard Paramount really liked that script. It was just a matter of the price, and Fincher won't compromise on that. I feel like someone like Bong Joon-ho could deliver an amazing zombie movie on, like, half the budget. And same thing with Torso, my pal Mark Andreyko and Brian Michael Bendis's serial killer graphic novel set in Cleveland. Follows a serial killer, and Elliot Ness is hunting him down. Like, Bong is he's the director of Memories of Murder. Now, maybe you could say he already did that. He already made a serial killer movie. Why would he do something like Torso? Why would he do something like The Devil in the White Sea? The Devil in the White City, which was also on the list. It's like, because that is what Hollywood, like, does. They say, oh, this guy made this. He could probably do this for us. And first of all, I love the response was just, like, across the board. Let him do what he wants. He just won an Oscar. Like, how about we just let him decide? I'm not, like, fucking deciding for Bong Joon-ho, guys. Like, I don't think Bong Joon-ho gives a fuck what I think he should or shouldn't do. He should obviously do whatever he wants. He's obviously earned that. And that's what he's done his whole career. And that's why Matt Goldberg was quick to say we should include something like that in the story to acknowledge he should continue making original movies. Cinema is better for it. But let's also be realistic, okay? No one is realistic. That is the thing that just drives me fucking crazy. Everybody's a goddamn idealist on Twitter. People like money. You don't make millions of dollars directing movies like Mother, okay? You don't make millions of dollars directing Memories of Murder. Now, I don't know what Bong Joon-ho's overall net worth is, but maybe Bong Joon-ho wants to live large. It's not by making another South Korean movie or, it's just like you end up taking a gigantic tentpole. That's what you do. It's why Ryan Coogler went from, and people like totally pretend that this history doesn't exist. Ryan Coogler's best movie, for sure, is Fruitvale Station. He went from that to Creed to Black Panther. Two big franchise things. Is anybody calling Ryan Coogler like a sellout? What about a guy like Christopher Nolan, who dazzled Sundance audiences with Memento? What an incredible tale of originality. Within 5 years, he's directing Batman Begins. You don't hear the same, like, it's wild to me. And when they say, this guy, like, fucking Nick Robinson, like, who, don't even get me started, Never really had a personal problem with Nick. Imagine winning the biggest, most prestigious award and having a fucking guy like the Sneider tell you you should direct a fucking Justice League movie. Like, my guy, are you going off a fucking tweet? Like, why don't you read the story? Okay, that's not what it says at all. And if you're a script supervisor, you should probably learn how to read. But it's like, when Tom McCarthy won Spotlight, did anybody think, oh, well, his next thing will be a Disney Plus movie, a children's movie called Timmy Failure? Like, no. Sometimes people don't do the obvious thing. It's fucking mind-boggling. And unless your name is Justin or Boris or Mike, you don't know the town, you don't know development as well as I do. Because I've covered development for the last dozen fucking years in this town. So unless you're one of my competitors at the trades, shut your mouth. And that includes all the like fucking, I had an X-Men writer being like, what are you talking about? Even the people at agencies, at studios, people at agencies, they cover certain studios. That's how it works. There's coverage agents. And it's like, they don't care what's going on anywhere else. They're responsible for this. I'm responsible for everything. I need to know everything in the works at every studio. And I came up with a list of 80 projects. I couldn't do an 80 project list, guys. Had to choose 10. I sent the list to the editors. They said, you should, focus on these. Some were my choices. Some were theirs. That's how it works. That's why it's we. We use the collective we. Wasn't, it's just so silly. I thought there were a lot of interesting choices on the list. I thought it was just a fun article, that's grist for the mill. I got to spend half a day doing it. I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed researching it, going through everything that was in development. And the first fucking reply to it, to the Collider account, was, delete this. You should be embarrassed by this. You know how much fucking garbage I see online every day? I write like a single article that isn't hard news, and people fucking are like, stay in your lane. Like, I fucking hate Twitter. I cannot wait to leave. It's a cesspool of just fucking disgustingness. Apparently something major happened last night where half of film Twitter, should have apologized. Nearly driving some young woman to suicide because she made a mistake in a DM that was, like, exposed. Like, incredible. What else happened? Oh, we spoke about Mahershala Blade. He also signed on to this project, Swan Song. Let me tell you, they were trying to get Ryan Gosling for that for a long time. What else? Oh, we had a ranking of the 20 best Brad Pitt movies on Collider. And, it was a good list for the most part. But Jesse James was number one, and there's like this cult of people that think that the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford is just like, it's incredible. It's just a stunning masterpiece. The answer to this is 7. 7 is a perfect movie. This is not in dispute. So I don't get that. Fight Club, Moneyball, yeah, I'm sorry. That's just not, it's a very weird number one, I think. But check it out on Collider. Leave a comment there. Let Joshua know what you guys think. Because we all have, different favorite Brad Pitt movies. That's the thing. It wasn't Brad Pitt performances. It was Brad Pitt movies. True Romance was 17. 17? Okay. God. What movies did I see this week? I skipped a screening of Wendy last night. It's like, I liked Beasts of the Southern Wild. I am curious about Ben Zeitlin's follow-up, but, like, do I really want to drive an hour to get to the screening room to watch a Peter Pan movie that's, like, looks and sounds just like the last movie? No. I watched The Whistlers this week. It was okay. It's okay. It's a very unique premise. But as a crime film, I thought it was kind of, whatever. It was a little disappointing. Not gonna lie. And I typically love, foreign crime movies. Check out this movie, The Ardennes. Really like that one. What else? I spent a lot of time watching 000. I'm gonna have a review of that next week for you guys. What else? Hunters. Hunters is now available on Amazon, so I can finally talk about that. I thought it's pretty good. It's apparently it gets more serious as it goes on, and that is definitely one of my complaints of the show, is that it didn't always treat everything with the seriousness that subject demands. Some of the Holocaust stuff felt a little weird. Like, it just felt, when you got like Auschwitz, and there's this term being bandied about Jew-sploitation. And listen, I'm fine with that. Like, there's black-sploitation movies, Jew-sploitation, that's fine. But nothing was more chilling in this series, in the 5 episodes that I saw, than the opening scene, which I showed to a friend last night, and he was like, yeah, that looks fucking great. Like, the opening scene is terrific because it gets so dark. And yeah, just some of the stuff at the concentration camps, because there's a lot of flashbacks in this series, it didn't always ring true. Logan Lerman, I think, is a really... He's good. I like him. He's definitely growing on me, this kid. He's got some chops. Pacino, it's a fun role for him. It's just like a little too a little cartoony, a little caricature-y. Again, I really like the show. It's very entertaining, but it's more entertaining than it is prestige TV. You know what I mean? 000 is a little bit more prestige. Either way, it's definitely been a pretty good run for Amazon between those two shows, and I'll have more to say about Zero next week. What else did I fucking watch? I was like, is that all I did? Oh, I don't know when the embargo is on this. TV embargoes fuck me up, dude. There's just so many things to keep track of. But I did watch the Zodiac series, the most dangerous animal of all. I'd read that book. It's a weird story, because you do vacillate back and forth to, like, is this guy legit, or is he just sort of seeing what he wants to see? Is he kind of just desperate for some kind of fame or infamy? It's because it seems like he really wants it to be true. And so what? I first of all, I did not like the first hour of this show. I was like, oh, this is kind of like a bit of a chore, because it was more about a guy and his journey to find out who his father was, more than it was about the Zodiac. Like, I don't even know if Zodiac is mentioned in the first episode at all. And it's like, that is why we're all watching this. So the first episode is bad, but the show got better, particularly in episodes 3 and 4. And by the end of it, it was kind of sad. It was like, this was like, forget about what we're tuning in for. Like, this is a guy who just wanted to find out who his father was. And it just so happens that, this led him to think maybe his dad was the Zodiac. And so that morphs it like changes it into a different thing that I don't think he was necessarily prepared to grapple with. And but then once you get like that bone in the dog's mouth, he won't let go of it, even if there's a lot of evidence to the contrary. So it is a series worth checking out. I would just caution that you got to power through that first hour, because it's not great. But the evidence for both arguments is compelling, and they definitely do something interesting with the book in episodes 3 and 4, particularly with regards to Gary Stewart's co-author, Susan Mustafa. That is all very, very interesting. What else? You guys think that I'd be prepared for this show, but I mean, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. I wish I need to have like a mailbag. I need to have a mailbag so that when there are lulls in the show, I can just, go into the mailbag, answer a question for you guys. Beats me. I'm just running down the timeline to see if there was anything else that stood out to me this week. Ooh. Tom Harper, the director of The Aeronauts and Wild Rose, which was, one of my favorite movies of last year, signed on to direct a romance movie called Forever for MGM. Now, this didn't really ring a bell, and that's because it's 80 years old. This thing was like bought by Thalberg for his wife in like the 30s. So it's literally been in development for 8 decades. I don't know when the last time they tried to crack it was, probably the 70s, but wild. So, maybe, I really like the romance, even though it wasn't like that. It wasn't really a romance between Felicity Jones and Eddie Redmayne. They're kind of, two academics who respect each other. Yeah, I guess it was sort of painted as a romance, but it really wasn't. And same thing with Wild Rose. Like, I don't know, that's not necessarily a romance, but I think that there are elements of romanticism in both those movies, and I can see Tom Harper being a really good choice for this project. I mean, it's obviously going to be cast dependent. Any romance movie kind of is. It's all about chemistry, but I like that. I wouldn't have guessed that for Tom Harper's follow up. And I don't know if, for all we know, it'll be in development for another 80 years, but interesting. Oh yeah, man. I did want to tell my little story about the talent rep thing. So I was watching a show, and one of the leads was excellent, and I noticed that he did not have U.S. representation, and so I emailed a couple people to sort of tip them off, and it was just amazing how quickly things moved from there, and one guy was already giving this actor's name to a casting director on a major project, and I was like, what if this guy gets cast in this major project because I saw him in a TV series and thought he was good, and then somebody respected my taste or judgment or whatever. It's just wild to think about, and how quickly, overnight, your whole people's lives can change. Not my life. I'll still be stuck here in a podcast studio, but other people's lives. That is very, very cool to think about. Oh, Shannon and Swift. They're right. The screenwriters, they had a great Twitter thing today, this week. It said, tell us something weird you pitched on that never got made. We went in on the prequel to Seven. We loved what we came up with, but it was probably a bad idea to try and follow a masterpiece. Like I said, Seven is a legit masterpiece. The thing that they were being asked to write was a John Doe origin story called Virtue, which is kind of cool. Probably a terrible idea, like they said. How do you follow that up? The whole brilliance of Seven is that you don't know who John Doe is and what his reasons or motivations are. He loves that about him, about himself. It's just gonna puzzle people forever. So yeah, picking at the roots of that, I don't know about that. Harvey Weinstein still hasn't been found guilty. What is going on? What is going on with this jury? Who picked this jury? Is it full of HFPA members? This guy is so clearly fucking guilty. I don't know how much more evidence there needs to be. What is this jury debating? What are they thinking about? Lock this fucking guy up for a decade at least. I'm not saying he deserves life in prison, and a lot of people think that he does. Lock this guy up for a fucking decade at least. What is taking so long? Oh, there was a troll. The guy wasn't totally trolling me because he was right. Okay, I had said that Bong had won 4 Oscars. Parasite won 4 Oscars. Okay. Bong only won 3. He accepted the Best International Feature Award on behalf of South Korea. And so this guy pointed it out. And so I decided to counteract him because he obviously wanted me to change it from 4 to 3. Instead, I changed it from winning 4 Oscars to accepting 4 Oscars. Don't fuck with me, guys. I will find a way to fuck you back. Gangs of London, forgot to mention that trailer. Looks awesome. Love Joe Cole. Fucking Gareth Evans. Looks crazy. That's it. We were off, we were off on Monday. It's a short week. It's a short show. Guys, thank you for watching. I got the light. People need to get into this podcast studio. I'd love to have gone the full hour. Check out my buddy's short film, Bad Furniture, from Randall Maxwell. It's on Vimeo. It's a staff pick. Thank you for watching. Tell a friend. Tell someone you don't even like. Force them to watch my show. I am on Facebook, Instagram, Cameo at the Insnider. And I will see you next week where we'll talk about more fun stuff.